To be said, welcome back to the Horseman podcast. We're so happy that you joined us here for the premiere of season 2. I'm Josh.
I'm Josh.
And that's Greg. And we are back with the premiere of season 2. We are going to be talking about us behind the lens and the mic. We are back after a long-awaited break.
Yeah, about a month and a half, something like that.
About a month and a half, yeah. How has everything been going with your stuff, man?
I was just sitting in this chair waiting for the podcast to start up the whole time. I was waiting for you to come back.
It was very interesting because I had a feeling that we might take a break between seasons. I just didn't know. I don't think we knew how long the seasons would go, but I think how we ended the last one, I think that was a good way of ending it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because like Josh and I didn't know if we were going to do a season 2, to be honest. We were kind of like on the edge,
yep.
The whole time, just because of our schedules, which brings us to the This Is Us episode.
Right.
Like, for some of you that do know me, I am Gregory Sybouts on Instagram, but also that media wizard on Twitter. And some of you know me personally, some of you don't. To give you a little bit of background, I create a bunch of different types of media on a bunch of different platforms. I work for a trade school in doing all their media in-house and externally. So it's been picking up just because of the holidays and all of that good jazz. And all of a sudden, it's just like Josh hits me up, with that lovely phone call. It's like, are we going to do a season 2? And I did, like, as any sane person would say, fuck it.
Fuck it.
Why not?
And the thing was about the whole season 2 was I felt that we did have more to give to the audience.
Yes.
I think people are going to get a little look into this episode into how well we do together, because the way that we bounce ideas back and forth off together, we have a lot to show the world, and I think that stayed true to how we met too.
Yeah.
And it was just both of us. It's like this podcast where both of us is like, just cut the bullshit, just start talking, have a conversation, and that's really why this podcast kind of works for the two of us, because we're both, this is a project we're gonna do, so why not just go balls to the wall all in?
Yeah.
That's the best way I think one can probably do a podcast, and I think the great part about it is we don't take it too seriously.
No, not at all.
And we're very relaxed about it, but we're also like
dead serious. Like, we stayed up till 2:00 in the morning creating a bunch of different new graphics, studying a bunch of different new material for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, when you start seeing our new episodes, it's like, ooh, that looks nice. Yeah.
It's
because it was actually the first time, I believe, in our podcast history, that you and I were actually in the same room, working on it.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of interesting, because a lot of the people if you guys do remember the earlier episodes of the Horseman podcast, you remember that we actually did video for like the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Yep.
And it was across Skype. Now he's in person.
The IRL.
In the IRL.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun because like you don't have to worry about, oh no, the internet connection went out, or oh crap, the audio sounds bad because I'm on the phone or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a pretty good treat to start off season 2.
Yeah, and then being able to create the graphics, with
Yeah.
him there, because before we would have like these long delays
Yep.
of like, does this look good, or
You have to
I don't
wait
like
till
that.
you send a picture or a screenshot over whatnot. It's like, yeah, that looks kind of good, and you're zooming in on the picture, and
Yeah,
you can't
like,
quite see where it is. Yeah, and I think though, again, it was one of my goals for this podcast was actually to have an in-person one, and I think it's fitting that it's for the season 2 one.
Yeah, I think it's good as well too, and we actually learned quite a bit beforehand, just like learning, because for me, I do a lot more of the design stuff on this podcast, not necessarily like the overall, but more of just like design management, would you say, to making sure like everything looks consistent, all the lines kind of line up. I didn't have too much of a hand in it this last season, but this season I'm kind of like more pressing towards that. That's more my strength, and now seeing that.
Yeah, I think definitely you had a little bit more of a bigger impact, I guess, on the more graphical side. Side of things.
Design management,
especially with this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not too I'm getting into the whole graphic design, and that's like the coolest part about it is this podcast it's a project that it's opening doors towards like learning new things. Like I never thought I'd get into graphic design, but doing this kind of stuff is like, this is really fascinating. Creating all these different things.
Yes.
And I mean, the one thing I'm just gonna have to bug down is I'm just gonna have to get Adobe at some point, because
you just gotta do it.
You can't look. As much as people want to go, oh, just do the easiest thing possible, do the least amount, so it just looks okay. You know what? There's only so much Canva you can use before you have to go, you know what? Cut the slack, just get Adobe.
Yep.
Because look, if you're gonna be paying $50 a month for Adobe, okay, you might as well use everything, and you might as well just start learning everything, because that opens up doors to so much more if you just push yourself to getting to that extra step.
Yeah, and also as well too, what I like about it is that once you're at that point in your creative career, it's just like, okay, I just got to do this now. Because it's just like before, you could be on the edge, nothing wrong, with free programs. I love them. I think they're absolutely incredible. But there comes that certain point where it's just like, I want to start taking my stuff to the next level, or it's just like, I want to interact with the next, level of people, and just like, okay, I got to bite the bullet and get Adobe. But I don't feel like it's even biting the bullet. It's more like taking, the blue or red pill from the Matrix?
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah, something like that, and you just end up going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, and there is, I've used, so my programs have been on the cheaper side of things. Like I use VideoPad for I think 7 years now, and at one point I did have the full version, but I lost it somewhere. But basically it's just basic editing, and that's all that I really needed. And last summer, Greg and I were living in a house, and he got me introduced to Adobe, and I was like, that's great. And then when I moved back to my own place, I was like, I kind of got to cut Adobe for, cost purposes. So I continue to use VideoPad. It's just very frustrating when you know that you can do something, but you don't yet have access to it, and you're like, if I can only just get it this close. And VideoPad's great, don't get me wrong. It's a great tool for beginners because it's really simple. But if you're really trying to take the next step up, you can't just do the free stuff.
No.
You got, if you want something out of it, you're going to have to invest either time or money or skill into it.
I think you're always going to have to invest money, time, and then your skill just develops throughout that. That's kind of like the benefit of it.
Yeah.
Like my instructor, he said, just like, okay, so you have money, the perfection, and time, but you can only choose two.
Yeah.
And like for me, just growing in my career, doing this a little over 10 plus years, it's just like that does happen actually quite a bit. It was maybe within the last like year and a half where I understood how that triangle goes into place, where it's just like you can only choose two. Because I was working on this film called Session 32. I have posted a couple. I believe we showed a clip.
We've shown two of them: the Umibuzu
and the Target.
The Target one.
That's right.
We
showed both of those this last season, and I would try to. I'm like, I'm going to be, like the next whatever. It's just like I'm going nail on all three, and I did. However, it took so long. It's just like, oh my god, like you're just better off just trying choose two and just sticking to those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this last season I think we were able to showcase some of our work and stuff like that, and that's a pretty. It is really nice when you have something that you go, let me put this on here and see what happens, because you never know. And again, like I've said before, this podcast that we have is going to allow us to do
that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, actually. That's what we've been doing, is like a lot of like really crazy stuff that I didn't ever think I'd actually be doing. But now I'm in the thick of it. I'm like, holy crap, this is really, really fun. And sure, like you get into the nitty gritty of it, and I'm like, you do get on that train. I've gotten on that train before. It's like, is this really worth it? And at the end of the goal, it is, because let's say nothing comes of this podcast, right? At the end of the day,
he's lying.
There's so many. I'm not saying there's nothing going to come of this, but let's play the what if game a little bit, right?
Never play the what if game. Know that you're going to succeed the whole time. Don't listen to him. I'm the podcast. I am the host.
You just cut off the screen right here.
Just cut off.
But you get down the what if pile, and you go, what if it doesn't turn out? And you go, you know what? It's not going to be all that bad, because you have all this experience learning.
Yep.
It's the producing, the graphical design, the editing, the reforming of like your different stream outlook and stuff like that. And not even that. It's also just the marketing technique on it too. That is so much more, and that we haven't even scratched the surface of. But even just within our circles, telling our friends like, oh yeah, I have a podcast. That's a really cool story to bring up when you're talking to someone. It's like, yeah, I'm part of a podcast, and that's a pretty cool thing. Because I think a lot of people want to have that. And like, you have a podcast? How do you do that? Like,
yeah, and the biggest thing that I think that really adds to it is the act of doing something. Because sometimes it's just like we all have these burning questions within us. Yeah. It's just like, how do we do this? How can we do that? And it's just like, oh, we started a podcast. They're like, what? Yeah. And just like, yeah. And it's just like, I've been thinking about doing that. And then it's just like, well, this is what we did.
Right.
It's just like, it may not be on a huge scale. It may not be on a small scale. It may not even be on a scale.
Right.
It's weightless. And
no pun intended, right?
What's a pun?
You know what a pun is.
I do know. I'm hoping you guys do, because I can't.
They know what a pun is. Hopefully. They hate all of them.
Yeah. But it's just like I view everything that we do is either a reflection of what we're trying to do, or a piece of knowledge that we're trying to understand.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Because I like more of the interactions that I have with people, the more it's just like, oh, this is a moment for me to understand, or oh, this is a reflection of what has happened.
Right.
And for me now, seeing that, kind of go into full play, it's just like, oh, okay, this is my time to educate, or this is my time to reflect with the time that I've been doing. And with this, upcoming season 2, I think we're actually going to be more on the reflection side instead of this season 1. We felt like we had to educate, and you and I had talked about it, and it's just like that was not necessarily up our alley.
No.
So this season is more about trying to understand, and no, not understand, but to reflect about some of the topics that we have talked in the past, and we're going to go into it like as much detail as we can. And this is why Josh actually chose this line, and I think it's very important, is it needed to be said. It's a very good and reflective thing, but it's also a good, movement of understanding as well too. So on the lines of that is the reason why it needed to be said jumped off the page was,
throughout my life, I think throughout both of our lives, we've come in contact with people who kind of just beat around the bush a little bit.
Yep.
There's something that needs to be said, but no one's comfortable saying it because they don't want to say it. They beat around the bush, they sugarcoat it, they dance around, they do the little riff off, and then somebody actually comes out and says it. Well, it needed to be said there. That needed to be said.
Yep.
That's what jumped off the page. Like I said before, you cut the bullshit and you just say it.
Yeah.
Because in my head, it's better for me to hear the truth from someone than to hear someone go, "Oh, well,
we all knew this all along,
yeah,
and
exactly.
we're not going to help you out."
Right. Like, don't sugarcoat it. Just my thinking pattern is I'm an overthinker. So I've already been in your head anyways, and I've already seen the other 6 point of views. So it's like, just go ahead and tell me, because I already know what you're going to say. Don't keep the waiting period going on. And that's kind of like the what is going on, like this is the what into us. It's like there's our brains work, all of our brains work a little differently than everyone else's. And that's kind of what is going into this season. It's more of a, like you said, a reflection.
It's more of a reflection
and it's,
season.
And it's who we are, like, inside. And I think, like, one of the biggest ones that people like to know is, what are, like, projects or things that you've been working on, or what are, like, projects or goals that, you want to do. And I think because we talked about this earlier, we're like, well, having goals and projects that you want to work on is cool, but I think what most people want to know is, like, what you're up to now. So I'm going to post a question onto you, Greg.
Yeah.
Give us at least 3 projects, current ones that you've been working on, so that we've been on break.
On break. So, I've been doing a lot of actually stuff for the trade school. I've been actually doing a lot of virtual tour videos and a lot of in-house. I work in the education department, so it's just like I'm just finding better ways to promote, hey, this is how you should get into this program here.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of that. So that takes up most of my time, but personal projects, this podcast is one of them, and I've just been studying, like, more along the lines of, self-development, so like we said, this season's going to be a lot of reflection, so it's just like I'm going to be sharing a lot of that, as we go throughout this podcast this season, about, like, oh, this is what I've learned, this is what we should take seriously, or all of that. And then the last one is I've just actually been working on my business in a way of just cleaning up, just making it cleaner, a lot more streamlined. It's nothing fun about, like, it's like a lot of paperwork now, but you need to do that if you want, like to keep doing it better, faster. I do have, like, a lot of cool projects. Like, right now I'm helping out a friend of mine with her business. She's going to be running an art show in April, and it's just like I'm helping out with the paperwork and some of the video work with that. But it's just like now those are far in between. It's just like on more of the producing side, where it's just like, okay, we got this, yep. And before actually checklist before going into creating. But I do have a couple conceptual concepts that I have written down, but I have not shot yet. Later this season, we're going to go across 2 photographs that I've taken 2 years apart to explain, hey, this is what was going on in the feelings before, which I'm really excited to talk about. But other than that, it's been like a lot of paperwork on my end, Not saying it's boring, but it just needs to be done, so I can go to the next step and keep on creating. Enough about me. What about you, Josh? What have you been working on of lately?
Most of my work has been towards the podcast. There's a lot of ideas that's been in the works and stuff like that. There's a lot of different themes and different outlooks that I've had for the podcast. I think one of it is, like, we were talking last night, and one of I think the goal that I've had when I was younger was, trying to have my own radio show, right? So a lot of my work over the break has not only just been readjusting, because I moved twice within the break, and so I've had to readjust about 2 times. So there's been a lot of readjusting. For the most part, it's mostly been trying to work on my graphic design skills. That's one thing that I really wanted to get off to a hot start on. And I haven't been doing much video creating within the past couple weeks. There have been some other things that have popped up, unfortunately. But in the whole realm of things, I think I've gotten a little bit better in the graphic design department because of it. Also, I've been looking into some other marketing techniques as well for the podcast. Trying to get my producing skills also up a little bit. You know, there's I do have another Twitch thing that I use, and so that's where I like to practice a lot of my producing stuff. But there hasn't been a whole lot as far as work projects gone, just because of the readjusting. But yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty dead break for me as on the side of production stuff. But you know, it's not all that bad.
Yeah, and also as well too, I think this needs to be said. Just because you're not posting a photograph every day or you're not creating a video every day doesn't mean you're not being productive.
Right.
Sometimes you're being productive in a different area.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like for me, like I've gone months, you know, without posting something either on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever social media platform, but it's just like I've shot a couple photographs. Just because it doesn't live on the internet does not mean you're
that's another good point that I think also kind of works our way, because I think like it's not ever since I moved to Washington, but I think it's ever since I kind of really started this podcast. I think it's like I've noticed it, especially since I moved, since my new move, my social media presence is taking like a complete hit, like a down hit. Like I'm not on social media all that much anymore, and it's really nice, because it's more so you're living in the moment. Now I do miss sending Greg stupid videos on Instagram, but you know,
you sent me a lot of them. Like you have no idea how many.
No,
I could speak to this because Josh, he'd send me like 20, like right back to back, and I'm wondering, how did this guy watch all 20 videos within this 1 minute? It's just like boop, 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 and here I am, you know, just getting notifications on my Apple Watch. Is like Josh. And I'm like, oh my god.
And you know, that's the crazy part. Is like, you know, for a long time, my entire life was online. Because, you know, I didn't have any friends around when I was living in Seattle, like in my studio, besides this boy, besides him, and so you know, I didn't have a whole lot of friends online, and so most of the stuff I did was on social media or it was gaming and stuff like that. But now that I moved out here, it's changed a little bit, and you know, it goes from being on social media 10 hours a day to doing other things for 10 hours a day. My social media, I don't know, like, what's yours at 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, something like that?
God, be lucky if I'm on there for 10 minutes.
You're right, yeah. Like, it's like
I'm
lucky
just too busy now.
Yeah, I really don't like being on social media because it's a very negative place. But also, there's other things to do.
I feel like I think negative is the wrong word. I think everybody thinks social media is a negative space. I don't think so. I think it's a very positive space. I think what has like really tainted us is everybody always talks about the space instead of talking it as a tool.
Yeah.
So because space, it's just like, I don't know if you've seen the recent Dave Chappelle special. Lots of controversy, but we're not going to talk about that controversy. But
I haven't seen it yet.
But he has a really good line in that stand-up where he's like, everybody goes to Twitter and like talks blah blah blah. He's like, Twitter ain't even a real place.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of like put everything back in perspective, and it's just like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, don't get me wrong, I have to disclose this. I own stock in Twitter, you know, so it's just like I do have a favor. I do really believe in the company, but he does have a point where it's just like it isn't a real space.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you know, I view it as like, you know, a tool, you know, for whatever you wanted to use it for, and I think it's one of the better platforms. You know, same with like Instagram, Facebook, great tools. I think all somehow along the way, the conversation got shifted to it needs to be a space. But in reality, it's just like it was never really a space. I think it's just a tool, and such an advanced tool that like it kind of like overwhelmed all of us, you know.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Facebook's such an advanced tool. They changed their freaking name to the metaverse.
yeah, man, it's great. I have my own conspiracy on that.
The metaverse conspiracy.
The metaverse conspiracy, but
call it the Z theory.
The Z theory.
Yeah.
What's that?
The Zuckerberg theory.
Oh,
The Z
get
theory.
out of here.
Well, no, that's a good point. I mean,
It started off as a tool.
Yeah, social media. It like people do view it as space, but it's like it's really more so of a tool. It really is more so of a tool, and that's kind of like my outlook on social media has definitely changed. You know, I got social media. I think pretty early on. I wouldn't say pretty early on. I was like 13.
That's young, man.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
on there.
I was on Instagram when I was 13. You know, and then like it was, you know, my parents were not happy about it, but you know, at the same time, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. A 13-year-old having Instagram was like, you kind of want to keep an eye on that, especially at the time that I had Instagram. So you know, it just went from Instagram into Facebook, and then all the other crap that it's out there that's now, and now that it's more of I'm doing a production where I have a show and, you know, I'm trying to market to people and I'm trying to get up into that because I want my own show. I want my own radio show. You have to use social media. And I think what's really cool is
I like seeing the shift that you have made, because he used to send me 92 videos a second. And now it's just like I'll go days, and he won't send me a thing. And I think that just shows the growth of, you know, just learning the platform, because I think that is the biggest thing that I personally believe that we should actually be trying to teach people, instead of saying it's this bad thing. Let's start shifting the conversation as it is a tool. And with that, people will, I personally think, it'll click where it's just like, oh yeah, this is a tool, where it's just like they can understand, oh, I can be digital here, but I can also interact here. And they become the master of both of those worlds.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing, I saw this article, I think it was back maybe earlier this year. There's an article talking about, now I'm not really into the platform. I may have a TikTok account. But I'm not on the platform. I don't create on there. It's just not something that I enjoy getting onto. But but the article was talking about the creativity of the users on there. I mean, I don't like the videos that the people have put out on TikTok are absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
The ridiculousness of the editing skills are insane. And these are people that are like, you know, 10 years younger than us who are doing this, like at least 10 years younger than us doing this, and a little less than that. But I'm looking at these videos, and somehow they pop up on Instagram, and I'm just like, these guys created this on TikTok, on their phones, or their iPads. And it's like, that's insane. And I'm like, that's so cool. And it does speak to the volume of why these people shoot up so popular to the top, is because people are like, holy crap, they put a lot of time and effort into this. Now, yes, there are some accounts that they get that popular because of other motives. But I think the main one that people see is they do see that hard work, and the thing is, I'm going to use this to showcase my passions to the world. And I think that people need to start going back to, like, there's a lot of people who do show their passion to the world. I think we all need to start, like, really dialing that in. And I think we need to be celebrating people's passions a little bit more nowadays.
I think the biggest thing, you know, is that there's not a lot of gratitude out there.
Yeah.
And, like, taking the time to, like, encourage people or conversations. I don't believe that you have to do X, Y, Z to get where you are. Mm-hmm. Because, like, as you know, like a year ago, like, a little over a year ago when we were living in that house, it's just like we were on two completely different paths. You know, I was a barista and you were a security guard. And now seeing it, it's just like, hey man, we're actually really taking deep dives into actually our creative journey, because we talked about it almost probably every day about doing something like this. And it's just about like putting the time, energy, and effort. And even though you feel like you don't have it, you actually do. The biggest thing is just like taking a step back and like breathing. Is just like, okay, what can I actually do? And I remember I'm going to share a couple of the stories. There's a little fly flying.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah. But there's going to be a couple stories this season that we're going to go and dive deep into about that. So without further ado, let's get into episode 2 later this season. So I'm Greg.
I'm Greg. Yeah, that's Greg. And I'm Josh.
I've been telling you guys this whole time,
yeah,
right? I'm Josh.
That's. I think there's one other point that I want to make with all this the social media stuff is it's kind of more of a direction on the viewers kind of thing. It's a question for you guys. If you guys are watching this on if you guys are watching this live, shoot us a tweet on which platform would you prefer for your projects, and which platform do you think is the best at marketing for the projects? Do you think that Facebook or Twitter is the best? Maybe Instagram, maybe use Snapchat or whatever. I know he's going to say Twitter because he has stock. Don't listen to him.
I have stock in Twitter. It's always Twitter. Make NFTs.
Thank you guys so much for watching
fungible tokens.
Thank you guys so much for watching episode 1 of season 2. We're so excited for you guys to see the rest. This episode will drop on Tuesday at 5 p.m. on the 42 Studios YouTube channel. You guys can find that in the Twitch About page. Also, Greg's socials are over there, and my socials are right here. Go shoot us a follow, ask us some questions, and we'll try to get to you.
I'll get back.
Yeah.
I don't know about this guy.
Yeah, I'll be like 48 hours tops.
He's a 48 hours. Like for me, I'll talk to you. I'll be like, oh, what up?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's like, hey, let me pause this movie I'm making and get back to you guys. But we've had a lot of fun with this episode.
Yes.
And we are going to continue our work on other things. So thank you guys so much for watching. We guys hope you have a blessed rest of your Saturday, and we will see you next week.